So growing up, most of us were told the same thing. Drink your milk. You need it for strong bones. You need the calcium. And most people never questioned that. It just became one of those things we accepted. Dairy is the calcium source. Full stop. But here's what nobody really talks about. There are plants that contain significantly more calcium per 100 grams than cow's milk. And in some cases, the calcium is absorbed by the body more efficiently than dairy. Kale has a calcium absorption rate of around 60 to 65%. Milk sits at about 30%. So you're not just getting more calcium, you're getting calcium your body can actually use more of. Today we're going through 12 of them, what they are, how much calcium they actually contain, and how to get them into your diet without making it complicated. Some of these will surprise you. A couple of them are genuinely extraordinary. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Let's get into it. So number one of the plant that has more calcium than milk is Moringa, Moringa oleifera, the most calcium-dense plant on Earth. We start here because nothing else on this list comes close. Moringa leaves contain somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams of dried powder. To put that in context, whole milk contains about 113 milligrams per 100 grams. So Moringa has roughly 25 times the calcium content of milk. That's not a small difference. That's a different category entirely. Moringa is native to India and has been used as food and medicine across Asia and Africa for thousands of years. Beyond calcium, it contains all 9 essential amino acids: iron, vitamin C, potassium, and magnesium. Research on moringa and bone health has found that fermented moringa improves calcium bioavailability significantly. Fermentation breaks down the phytic acid that can otherwise limit absorption. The practical caveat: you're not eating 100 grams of moringa powder in a sitting. A realistic daily amount is a teaspoon to a tablespoon of powder. But even at that amount, you're adding a meaningful and highly bioavailable calcium boost to your day. Stir a teaspoon of moringa powder into warm water, a smoothie, or mix it into soups and sauces. It has a slightly earthy, green taste that disappears in a smoothie but adds depth to savory cooking. Number 2. Sesame seeds. Unhulled. The ancient calcium secret sesame seeds. And specifically unhulled sesame seeds, meaning the outer shell is still intact. Because this is where most of the calcium lives, and most of what's sold commercially as sesame is hulled, meaning that shell has been removed. Unhulled sesame seeds contain close to 1,000 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams. That's roughly 9 times the calcium in milk by weight. Hulled sesame seeds drop to around 60 milligrams, a massive difference. Sesame has been used across the Middle East, Asia, and Africa for over 3,000 years. Ancient Ayurvedic medicine specifically recommended it for bone strength. Sesame is also rich in magnesium, zinc, and vitamin K, all of which work alongside calcium for bone density and maintenance. Calcium without adequate magnesium and vitamin K doesn't deposit into bone efficiently. Sesame provides the full supporting cast alongside the calcium itself. A tablespoon of unhulled sesame seeds sprinkled onto salads, stirred into yogurt, or added to stir-fries. Tahini, ground sesame paste, retains a good portion of the calcium and is a versatile way to get it into meals daily. Look specifically for unhulled or whole sesame and whole sesame tahini. Number 3. Chia seeds. Small seeds. Serious calcium. Chia seeds contain around 631 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams, roughly 5 to 6 times the calcium in milk by weight. And they've been valued as a concentrated nutrition source since the ancient Aztec and Mayan civilizations, where they were called running food, because warriors and messengers could sustain themselves on small amounts for extended periods. Beyond calcium, chia is one of the best plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, with anti-inflammatory properties that reduce the chronic inflammation accelerating bone loss, high in phosphorus, magnesium, and protein. The gel-forming soluble fiber slows digestion in a way that improves mineral uptake, including calcium. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds stirred into water or plant milk and left for 10 minutes to gel. Add fruit, a little honey, and you have chia pudding, genuinely good as a breakfast or snack. Or add dry chia seeds to smoothies, oatmeal, or sprinkle on salads. At a 2 tablespoon serving, you're getting around 179 milligrams of calcium, more than a glass of milk. Number 4. Collard greens, the most calcium-rich leafy green collard greens. This is the leafy green that consistently tops the list for plant calcium when you factor in both content and absorption rate. And it's genuinely one of the most underrated vegetables in most people's diets. Collard greens contain around 145 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams raw, comparable to milk. And crucially, the calcium absorption rate from collards is high because they're low in oxalate. Oxalate is the compound in plants like spinach that binds to calcium and prevents absorption. Spinach has plenty of calcium on paper, but very little of it actually reaches your bones. Collards, kale, and broccoli don't have that problem. The calcium is genuinely available. Collard greens were a staple in West African and traditional Southern American cooking for centuries. Communities relying heavily on leafy greens often had strong bone health despite no dairy, which makes complete sense once you understand calcium bioavailability. Steam or lightly sauté collard greens with a little olive oil and garlic. 5 to 7 minutes is enough. A cup of cooked collards provides around 268 milligrams of calcium. Add a squeeze of lemon after cooking to improve mineral absorption. Works as a side dish with almost anything. Number 5. Amaranth, the Aztec grain that feeds your bones. Amaranth. And this one has a remarkable history. It was a sacred food of the Aztec civilization, so central to their culture that when the Spanish colonizers arrived and wanted to break the indigenous religious and cultural framework, one of the first things they did was attempt to ban amaranth. That's how important it was. Amaranth leaves contain 276 milligrams of calcium per cooked cup, more than double the calcium in a glass of milk. The grain form contains around 116 milligrams per cooked cup. It's also exceptionally high in protein for a plant, containing all essential amino acids, along with magnesium, iron, and manganese. The protein content is actually relevant for calcium because bone is roughly a third protein by composition, and adequate dietary protein supports the collagen matrix that calcium deposits into. Simmer 1 part amaranth grain in 3 parts water for 20 minutes. Mild, slightly nutty, naturally sticky. Works as a breakfast porridge with fruit and honey or as a grain side dish. Amaranth leaves can be cooked like spinach but actually deliver their calcium rather than locking it away with oxalate. Number 6. Kale, the calcium absorption champion. Kale has become well known as a health food, but most people still don't fully appreciate what makes it specifically so good for calcium. It's not just about the content, it's about the absorption. Kale contains around 250 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams raw. Milk contains about 113, so kale has more calcium by weight to begin with. But here's where it gets interesting. The absorption rate from kale is around 60 to 65% versus approximately 30% for dairy milk. So you're getting more calcium and absorbing a significantly higher proportion of it. When you do that maths, kale is delivering roughly 4 times the usable calcium that an equivalent weight of milk does. Kale is also a significant source of vitamin K1 and K2, which direct calcium into bone tissue and prevent it depositing in arteries instead. That routing function is something calcium supplements cannot provide on their own. One reason high-dose calcium supplementation without adequate vitamin K has been associated with arterial calcification. Massage raw kale with a little olive oil and lemon for a salad. The massaging breaks down the tough fibers and makes it far more pleasant to eat raw. Or sauté it with garlic for 5 minutes. A cup of raw kale gives you around 100 milligrams of calcium with exceptional absorption. Quick pause. If you're finding this genuinely useful, drop a like. And let me know in the comments which of these you already eat regularly. I'm curious how many people are already getting good plant calcium without realizing it. We're halfway through. The next 6 get into some less obvious ones. Number 7. Dried figs, the biblical calcium source. Dried figs, and this one appears in ancient texts from across the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern world, including the Bible, where figs are mentioned as one of the 7 fruits of the Promised Land. They were a daily food, a medicine, and a significant source of nutrition for populations who built extraordinary physical civilizations without a drop of dairy. Dried figs contain around 162 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams, more than milk, and drying concentrates the mineral content significantly from the fresh fruit. They're also high in potassium, which reduces urinary calcium excretion, meaning less calcium leaves your body through urine. That potassium-calcium relationship is often overlooked. Diets high in sodium increase calcium loss through urine. Potassium counteracts that. Figs provide the calcium and help your body retain it simultaneously. They're also rich in fiber, iron, and magnesium, and they have a natural sweetness that makes them genuinely one of the most pleasant ways to increase plant calcium in the diet without any effort. 3 or 4 dried figs as a snack provides around 80 to 100 milligrams of calcium. Add them to oatmeal, to yogurt, to salads with walnuts and cheese, or just eat them as they are. One of the easiest additions on this list to make a daily habit. Number 8. Poppy seeds, the most calcium-dense seed you're probably ignoring. Poppy seeds, and this one genuinely surprises people. Because poppy seeds are mostly treated as a topping, something you sprinkle on a bagel or a muffin without giving much thought. But by weight, poppy seeds are one of the most calcium-concentrated foods in existence. Poppy seeds contain around 1,438 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams. That's more than 13 times the calcium in milk by weight. A single tablespoon, which weighs about 9 grams, delivers around 126 milligrams of calcium, which is more than a glass of milk in a fraction of the volume. They're also high in phosphorus, manganese, zinc, and copper, all minerals involved in bone structure and maintenance. Poppy seeds have been used medicinally across the Middle East, India, and Eastern Europe for thousands of years, specifically for building strength in bone and muscle. The modern nutritional data confirms it. A tablespoon of poppy seeds added to smoothies, stirred into yogurt, mixed into salad dressings, or used in baking. Lemon and poppy seed is a classic combination for good reason. The vitamin C in lemon improves mineral absorption from the seeds. That pairing is more intelligent than it looks. Number 9. White beans, the most calcium-rich legume. White beans, navy beans, cannellini, great northern beans. These are the most calcium-rich legumes available, and they've been a staple food in Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and Latin American cuisine for centuries. Cultures that ate beans regularly and dairy rarely often had bone health outcomes that puzzled researchers expecting dairy to be essential. A cooked cup of white beans provides around 140 milligrams of calcium, comparable to milk, plus significant protein, soluble fiber, iron, magnesium, and folate. The protein supports the collagen matrix of bone, and magnesium helps calcium absorption. One of the most complete bone-supportive foods available. They have a low glycemic index and stabilize blood sugar, and chronically elevated blood sugar is a driver of bone mineral loss over time. White beans are supporting bone health from that direction too. Open a can of white beans, rinse and drain them, and add to soups, stews, salads, or mash them with olive oil and garlic as a dip or spread. From a tin, they're genuinely ready in 2 minutes. A cup at lunch or dinner makes a meaningful difference to your daily calcium intake consistently over time. Number 10. Flax seeds calcium plus the omega-3 bone protector flax seeds. And the calcium angle here is something most people who consume flax for its omega-3 content don't know about, which is a shame because the combination of what flax provides is uniquely relevant to long-term bone health. Flax seeds contain around 256 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams. But the more interesting thing is the combination of calcium with the highest plant-based omega-3 content of any seed. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically ALA in flax, and EPA and DHA downstream, have documented anti-inflammatory effects that directly reduce osteoclast activity. Osteoclasts are the cells that break down bone tissue. Chronic inflammation accelerates their activity, meaning you lose bone mass faster. Omega-3s calm that inflammatory process and slow bone loss from that angle simultaneously with the direct calcium contribution. Flax seeds also contain lignans with mild estrogen-like activity that help maintain bone density post-menopause, when estrogen decline is the primary driver of accelerated bone loss. Ground flaxseed is significantly more bioavailable than whole. Whole seeds can pass through the digestive system without being broken down. A tablespoon of ground flaxseed stirred into porridge, smoothies, or yogurt daily. Store ground flax in the fridge because the fats oxidize quickly at room temperature. Number 11. Bok choy. The Chinese calcium staple bok choy. And this one has been central to Chinese cuisine and Chinese medicine for centuries. If you look at population studies of communities in East Asia that historically consumed very little dairy, the bone health data has often been comparable to or better than dairy-consuming Western populations. Bok choy, along with other low-oxalate brassica greens, is a significant part of that explanation. Bok choy contains around 105 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams with very low oxalate content, making the calcium highly bioavailable. One steamed cup provides around 158 milligrams with an absorption rate of 50 to 60%. It's also rich in vitamin C, vitamin K, and folate. Vitamin K routes calcium into bone rather than soft tissue. Traditional Chinese medicine classified bok choy as a nourishing food that strengthened the body's foundational structure, which maps precisely to what the modern nutritional data tells us. Slice bok choy in half and steam for 4 to 5 minutes, or stir-fry quickly in a hot wok with garlic and a splash of soy sauce for 3 minutes. It cooks fast and needs minimal preparation, works as a side dish with almost any protein or as part of a noodle or rice bowl. Number 12. Stinging nettle, Urtica dioica, the wild calcium powerhouse. And we end with stinging nettle, which is either something you've actively avoided all your life because of the sting, or something you've walked past 1,000 times without giving a second thought. And it turns out it's one of the most calcium-dense wild plants you can eat. Stinging nettle contains around 481 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams dried, roughly 4 times the calcium in milk. Fresh leaf is lower, but drying concentrates the mineral significantly. Nettle is also high in iron, magnesium, vitamin K, vitamin C, and silicon, a trace mineral directly involved in collagen synthesis in bone matrix that rarely gets discussed. Nettle has been used as food and medicine across Europe, Asia, and the Americas for thousands of years. The sting disappears entirely with cooking or drying. Heat deactivates the formic acid compounds responsible for the irritation. Wear gloves when handling fresh nettle. Blanch it in boiling water for 2 minutes. The sting is immediately gone. Then use it exactly like cooked spinach. Add to soups, stir into pasta, blend into pesto. Dried nettle can be made into a mineral-rich tea by steeping a tablespoon in hot water for 10 minutes. It's one of the most nutrient-dense teas you can drink, genuinely. So there they are, 12 plants, all with more calcium than milk per 100 grams, or with calcium that the body absorbs more efficiently, or both, and all with additional nutrients, magnesium, vitamin K, vitamin C, and protein. You can start by pick 2 or 3 from this list that fit naturally into what you already eat. Kale and bok choy if you cook regularly. Chia and sesame if you want something quick. Moringa if you want the most concentrated calcium source available. Start there. Build it in over 30 days. Your bones don't rebuild overnight, but consistent daily choices are exactly how they stay strong long term. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment. Which one surprised you most on this list? I read every single one. See you in the next video.